So Jeff and I are here. We are queued up for another episode of Two in the Queue. It's episode 3, and we are talking a little bit more spoilers of Fate Reforged. We are very close to a full spoiler, and we'll do a podcast or a video cast about that. Yep. But right now we wanted to talk about constructed cards, or I guess format-specific cards for Fate Reforged. So why don't you talk about your favorite format, Commander? Well, not necessarily your favorite format, but you are more familiar with Commander than I am.
Commander is the format I go to when I want to have fun playing Magic.
Right, that's fair. So, I don't have fun playing Magic ever.
I'm gonna kind of cop out when I talk about Commander right now, because this set is really good for Commanders.
Are you just gonna talk about the Commanders?
Yeah, well, I mean,
I think that's okay. That's not a cop out.
We're getting 5 clan leaders and 5 dragons.
And 5 dragons.
Yeah.
And another dragon.
Right.
Okay.
And then all the legends are really awesome to build around. They all fit in decks really well. Clan Leader is a little restrictive because they only go in wedge decks.
Right.
But since wedge has only really been supported by this block so far, you're getting an entire new set of commanders. Where before you only had...
And they go in wedge decks because the commander rule is if there's any mana symbols in them. Right.
Any mana symbols total on the card is that card's color identity.
Even if it's abilities?
Yeah.
Okay, that's
cool. Bosch can only go in red decks.
Right.
And Felon of Havenwood can only go in Golgari decks.
Golgari decks, okay.
But now you have the previous Commander deck, the original Commander 2012.
Right.
And then you have Cons, and now you have Fate Reforged for wedge color commanders.
Right, okay.
A little bit more variety. You're basically getting 25% more commanders for those colors.
It's a great deal.
Yeah, it is a good deal.
Right.
And then, the dragons can go in the wedge decks. They can be commanders themselves. They can...
Right, because all the dragons are just 2 colors, right? The 2 allied colors.
They can beef up regular decks. They can go in your sign of their dragon deck.
Who do you think the most powerful commander is that they've released so far in this set? Like, as a commander.
As a commander?
Yeah.
I really like Yasova.
Yeah.
Because she has a lot of interaction on the table.
Well, she has 1 interaction on the table, right? You can't repeat that ability.
Well, no, but I mean, a lot of interaction, if you're playing multiple players, you can make allies and or enemies.
Oh, true. She's got the diplomacy.
This person's got a really powerful creature, and you both want to team up against this guy who has the most powerful board.
Yeah.
This person can attack with that creature. You can attack with that creature.
All right. She also fits in Tiny Commander because she's casting guys through those, which is sweet. All right, so what... Any of the dragons, do you think those be commander viable as far as commanders go?
As of recording, I haven't seen the blue-white or the green-red. I'm guessing the green-red will be commander-worthy.
Okay.
Because it's the most dragon color.
Yeah.
The other card is Ugin, can go in every commander deck.
Sure.
He's big, he's flashy, does multiple things. Slices, dices, makes Julian fries.
Well, and he's got good one-on-one play in the first ability and the second ability, but then the second ability is sweet in multiplayer, right? It's not just choose a player. It's all
and the third ability, can be played.
No one's gonna do the third ability.
No, you might after a board wipe or something. Everyone's lost their board, and you just have Ugin sitting around. You can use his ability to rebuild your board.
Who's gonna wipe the board, leaving Ugin around to ultimate next turn?
Somebody who's about to die.
All right, so you might play diplomacy and all right, you be kingmaker for me, and I will promise to wreck everyone.
Right.
Okay.
Except for you.
Except for you.
Right.
I'll take you under my dragon wing.
Exactly.
Right.
And then the final card I think would be really cool for Commander is the Bounce Clone, which is supplant form.
Yeah, that's also the game day primer, right?
Right.
Which we'll talk to a little bit about.
So, 4 blue, instant. Return target creature's owner's hand, put a token in play, it's a copy of it.
Which is awesome.
It is really cool.
Yeah. They've done some really cool things with clones in Cons and then this set.
Yeah, Clever Impersonator is probably the best clone ever printed.
Yeah. Well, so his only restriction is the mana cost, right? 4 is more than 2.
Right.
But still, a great effect.
But copies any permanent.
Anything, yeah. Which is pretty neat. The only card I wanted to mention for Commander is, in my Commander deck, Storage Lands always play a big factor, just because they're cheap and they let you do lots of mana at some point. And there's the Dragon Storage Land that came out, the Crucible of the Spirit Dragon. Okay, so I'm going to move to Limited, which is something that I like a little bit more. And I want to talk about Manifest. So, Manifest in its most powerful would obviously be make a 2/2 that is also a morph creature You get to unmorph it at some point, and it's this sweet unmorphed creature that you got into play for free, essentially. But which would like to me that's a great constructed ability. I want to build my deck with all these cheap morphs, but then you have to balance like the manifests cards with all the morphs. I actually think that it's going to be really good in limited, just because the 2/2 body is always relevant.
Right. Well, also they don't have to be morphs to be turn face up.
Right. They just have to be creatures.
Right. So like, but you can do cool things like in limited. Let's say in sealed, you open a what's the Hydra that has morph?
Oh, Hooded Hydra?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like for Hooded Hydra, you can manifest the face down, and for 2 green, you can turn it face up and have a 5/5.
That's true.
Instead of for 5.
That's true.
Yeah.
That'd be pretty sweet, actually. I didn't think about that. Yeah, I was trying to think of cards that had cheaper casting costs than they had morph costs, and
I think it's like one of the few.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there's some of the free unmorph ones where you can like reveal a card and unmorph it, which none of those are really that great except the black one anyway.
But there's gonna be times where like you just need a body in limited, and manifest can turn whatever card's on top into a 2/2.
Well, in the enchantment cycle, that manifest is pretty cool. The light form is probably the highlight of that. It's flying lifelink on a 2/2 body for 3, which is pretty sweet. The other cards I want to talk about for limited were the clan cycle. So they're monocolored cards, but they do something in addition. If you've got one of the either the ally color or the enemy color of that card, so like the red card. He's a Yeti. He's like a 4/4 for 5, I think. But he can have flash if you've got green or blue, a green or blue permanent in play, which is pretty sweet. I love, they're all uncommons, but I love getting paid off later in a draft when you've drafted a clan and it's like, oh, this card is perfect for my deck, and I knew it was going to come back to me because no one else was playing these colors. So that just exciting. I think it's going to change a lot how the cons limited works. So I guess we'll move to standard next. What are you excited about for standard?
For standard, the first card I want to talk about is Valorous Stance. Mm-hmm. So Blue-White Heroic has been going up in popularity.
Right.
Like at F&M, there were like 23 players. 12 of them were playing Blue-White Heroic.
Oh, interesting. Wow.
Yeah.
I didn't know it was that popular.
Well, it's really cheap to build. So it's affordable.
It's aggressive, and it's got a little bit of built-in wrath resistance. Right. It's also really good against aggro decks with the white ordeal, right?
Right.
So, yeah.
So like Valorous Stance gives them both an offensive and defensive spell.
Right.
It gives them the, a Johnny's Presence, God's Willing 9 and 10 if you need it.
Okay.
But it doesn't hurt the deck because it also, you can exile like Corsair Crewfix and stuff like that. Stuff that might be hard to attack through without having to burn 2 spells in your hand.
Right. That is pretty cool, actually. I didn't think about that.
Yeah.
All right. What anything else that you want to talk about for standard?
I wanted to talk about 3 Black Warriors.
I see. Okay. The warrior tribe.
Right. I want to talk about Brutal Horde Chief, who is the new 1-drop. Mm-hmm. So combined with Bloodsoaked Champion and Tormented Hero, 12 1-drops, which is huge.
Right.
It's only a 1/1, but when it attacks, you drain.
Well, that's the Shadow Spear, or the Shadow. Yeah.
Oh no, you're right. The Horde Chief is whenever you attack with any creature, they drain.
Yeah.
It's the 4/2 for 4.
Yes, that guy's exciting.
Yeah.
I think he's really cool. And then who's the other warrior that you want to mention?
The Strike Leader.
Okay. Is he the one that leaves a body behind?
Yeah, whenever he attacks, you put a 2/1 Black Warrior into play.
And you can...
and he has Dash.
Dash. I still can't remember the name of that mechanic. Okay, great. So what do you think? Black Warrior's a thing?
I think it could be a thing. Probably more Black-White Warriors, like the event deck.
Okay, so that you still have the Chiefs.
Right.
Chief of the Edge.
I feel like it's something to watch. I don't think it can be a thing until Blue-White Heroic goes away. I feel like that's the premier 2-color aggro deck in the format right now.
Well, so I haven't ever played Blue-White Heroic, but my impression of it is that sometimes it just gets those draws where it's either all auras or all creatures, and it kind of falls on its face.
Right.
Which is the warrior deck is going to be a deck that preys on decks like that. If you have to draw things in the right order, you might not get an extra turn to do that, basically.
Right.
So, okay. All right. Fair enough. The cards I want to talk about for standard were Soul Flare. I think he's a cool build around me card. I'm not really sure where he goes yet, but the fact that his abilities can change depending on what you delve away with him is really cool. And then the potential of Whisperwood Elemental. He's the green, manifest the guy every turn, and then you can sacrifice him to give all your whenever your creatures die, they get to manifest. So potentially overwhelming, but I think he's a little slow, so he might need some more pieces to. But I think manifest could be really cool for standard.
Right.
Yeah. All right. So what do you want to talk about next? Do you want to talk about modern?
I want to talk about modern just a little bit.
Okay.
2 of the white mythics in the set will be really good, I think.
Yeah, those were the 2 that I had to talk about too.
Right.
All right.
So Soulfire Grandmaster and Monastery Mentor.
So they're different, right? They're not going to go in the same deck, even though they're both cheap white creatures. Or do you think they're going to go?
I could see the current Delver decks cutting blue.
Okay.
And adding white.
Just becoming red-white burn decks,
yeah,
basically.
So you get to add these 2 white creatures, team them up with Young Pyromancer, you get like Boros Charm, you get Lightning Helix, you get Path to Exile. As your like your white suite.
Yeah.
And then just all the red burn.
And then all the red burn. Because it all has lifelink with the Grandmaster.
And I feel like, Young Pyromancer with Monastery Swiftspear kind of negates the need for Treasure Cruise. Like, if all your spells make 2 guys, and one of those guys now has prowess.
Right. Oof, that could be great.
I could also see maybe the deck playing, was it Flame Jab? The retrace 1 damage spell. So, like, I drew a land, I'm going to retrace, make an elemental, make it 1/1 prowess my other guys. And then every land you draw just, like, pumps your entire team and makes 2 more guys.
Yeah. Or, like, Lightning Bolt with buyback.
Right.
Oh, so good.
And how, like, if you're just throwing burn to their face and, like, every Lightning Bolt's a Lightning Helix, and every Boros Charm gains you 4,
right,
like, you're impossible to kill.
Yeah, basically. Except with the infinite decks. Right.
By your Dragon's Claws now.
For sure. So what cards do you think will become bigger as a result? Like, do you think Invest will make a little bit of a return, or maybe Maelstrom Pulse will see more play?
I feel like Anger of the Gods
is obviously
poised to
continue
double or
great.
triple in price in both standard and modern over the course of the next 6 months.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense. A card that's already seeing play that deals with these cards.
And it even exiles, which is huge.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's really big. Especially if they start playing Phoenixes for some reason.
Right.
Okay, all right. Okay, so we weren't planning on talking about it, but what do you think about Ugin in Modern? So he's 8 mana colorless. He potentially goes in Tron decks. Do you think he's what Tron needs to make that deck good again?
I don't think an expensive spell is what Tron needs to get better.
Okay.
I feel like if there is like a 4...
He's not better than Karn, right?
No.
No.
If there was like a 4 mana colorless spell that did something better, maybe.
Okay.
Or if like Cloud Post was unbanned. That opens a
Sure.
whole another can of worms. Like,
I don't think that's going to happen.
Like they have Kozilek at 9. Some decks already play that, and is Ugin that much better than Kozilek?
I mean, he's got more options than Kozilek.
But he doesn't just draw you those 4 cards right
Or
away.
annihilate things.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, you're right. Okay.
I mean, what you rather have? Is you want to like use the fire of a ghost, or do you want to annihilate things?
Well, I was thinking more his minus ability. Since Modern generally focuses on a lot cheaper casting cost things, and it only hits non-color, they have to have colors anyway, so potentially he's, like your Signets and whatever are saved.
I can see that, but like the deck already plays Oblivion Stone, which costs the same as Ugin to play on top.
That's true.
And they don't really care. They're like, they'll reload, or they'll have 2 Worm tokens left over, or Centering Titan will just destroy all of your lands.
Yeah, that could happen.
Yeah.
To people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It sucks that I would know permanence.
It does. It really, really does. So when we looked over the spoiler, we didn't really see a whole lot for Legacy, but we do anticipate, or at least I anticipate, the 2 white mythics being at least tested in Legacy. I
don't know a lot of the format, just what I've watched on coverage, and now that there's not very much coverage anymore, I don't really know how to evaluate the format.
Okay. Well, there's nothing cheap enough really to fit in Legacy.
No, I've heard people like whisper about the Temporal Trespass being good.
Yeah.
But then they're like, the Miracle Time Walk doesn't even get play. So like,
so why would this one?
Yeah, it's just getting a little bit of buzz.
Right. Is there any other cards for different formats that you wanted to mention? Any block cards that you're excited about? Now that block's not a thing anymore.
No, I'm sad that block's not a thing. I hope that Is block one of the rotating FNM formats?
It's, I mean, potential. They opened it up to vintage, so realistically, your FNM format could be whatever you wanted it to be. You just have to
time to start a campaign for block.
block campaign.
Yep.
All right, we'll have to organize that. We'll get that started. We'll have to sucker a store into doing block.
I mean, I'm sure there's plenty of stores. One of them will do it.
I mean, we have what, 3 months before the next set comes out.
Yeah.
Where block will be interesting.
Right.
So okay, all right, I'm in. On that note, pre-release events are the 17th and 18th of this month, so only about a week away now.
Yep.
And then game day is Valentine's weekend, 14-15.
Yep.
Did you see the game day, Matt?
I did see the game day, Matt.
What was your first impression of the game day, Matt?
My first impression was to go to inkplaymats.com and see if they could just print me one now so I could have it.
So you'd have it?
Yeah.
I don't think the file size is big enough to make that happen.
I mean, that made me sad.
The image.
It looks really pretty.
It does look really pretty. My first thought was, oh man, now I need to put together a standard deck and go win a game day somewhere.
It's the first game day champion mat since Journey into Nyx that I've actively wanted to win.
I would agree with that statement. I think that's the mat alone makes going to game day worth it.
Right.
On top of the fact that the common promo is going to be very playable.
Right.
And then the rare promo may be playable, but still a really cool card. It looks awesome in full.
Yeah, I mean, supplant form is going to be a commander staple, so even if you win it, it goes in your binder and you're going to trade it to some commander guy for some rare land from a standard set that they don't want.
That they don't want, exactly, yeah. We did want to also mention the Legacy Spring Classic, which is put on by AZ Magic Players. You can go to azmagicplayers.com and check it out for yourself if you're into Legacy. Cool. Yeah. Well, thanks for joining me for this middle of the spoiler season video cast. Hopefully we'll be back with you guys in 3 days, 4 days.
Yep.
With the full spoiler.
Sounds good.
Are you excited?
Hogan time?
Yeah.
All right. There's always a game with 2 in the queue.